Hello everyone. Today, I hope you're having a great day. Today we're gonna talk about Australia, and I think we started talking with Japan and its economy. So today, I want to move from country. I want to move to another country, and I want to look at Australia because it's another giant of Asia. It's, in my mind, I haven't sorted out, I haven't researched a lot about Australia, but in my mind they have industrial capabilities and they have an agricultural or primary economy that's thriving mostly on cattle and also mining. That's the impression that I have so far. Today's video, which I'm going to react, it's from TLDR News. The title of the video is Why Australia's Economy is Stalling. Last time I knew, Australia's economy has been booming for like 20 years, and it seems like this video is, for me, it's brand new, but it has a couple of days, I think, that it has been posted. Has a lot of views, 5,000 views, 1 million views, and a little bit more than 1,000 likes. And let's listen to it. Let me crank up the volume, listen to it, and react.
Ground news. At first glance, Australia's economy looks like it's doing pretty well. Australia's GDP has been growing pretty steadily since late 2020, and the fact that Australians just re-elected the incumbent Labour government with an increased majority would imply that they're doing something right. However, peek under the proverbial bonnet and things aren't so rosy. The economy is being kept afloat by immigration and government spending. Disposable incomes have cratered.
So immigration, people moving to Australia, that's what is making. Well, it's the immigration and government spending. So business are making money because there's people moving to Australia. And also the government is spending or printing money, either one.
And earlier this year, one of the big credit rating agencies warned it was considering downgrading Australia for the first time since 2003. So in this video, we're going to take a look at what's gone wrong for
getting downgraded, like after 20 years or so of not getting downgraded. It's quite a news
for the lucky country and how it might be fixed.
TLDR. And the Australia.
If you're interested in the political
Australia's upside down
and groupings which shape our world, then you might enjoy our poster, Every Alliance Explained. It shows, in slightly confusing detail, all of the world's major alliances and how different countries link together. Check out the poster by clicking the link in the description. So let's start with a bit of context, because Australia's recent economic history is pretty astonishing. As you might already know, Australia's GDP grew every quarter from 1991 until the pandemic in 2020, the longest consecutive streak in world history. This was in large part because Australia's economy had two things that rarely come together: an abundance of natural resources and a strong domestic economy.
Ooh, domestic.
When it comes to natural resources, Australia has vast deposits of metals and hydrocarbons.
Okay, let's look at the chart, because that chart is like wild. Iron ore, it's 23.8%. I'm pretty sure all that iron is going to China. Coal briquettes, 18.1%. A lot of coal that it's probably going to, you guessed it, China, the Asian market. Probably Korea. Some of it is going to make this in Korea. Then on third place, petroleum and gas. It's 12%. And on fourth place, it's gold. It's I don't know where gold is going. I don't know who's stuck in gold right now. But I'm pretty sure, sorry, petroleum, coal, briquettes, and iron ore are all staying within the Asian market. Either China, which is like the biggest global consumer in that region, and other countries around there.
Including iron, coal, oil, gold and lithium, which it exports around the world, especially to booming economies in Asia like China. If you just looked at Australia's export profile, you'd probably assume it was a low or middle income country, with an underdeveloped economy dependent on commodity exports. But that's not the case at all. Australia also has a strong domestic economy, with one of the highest GDP per capita in the world.
In the graph, they just put a graph. Australia is behind Denmark and the Netherlands. And the GDP per capita
also has a strong domestic.
It's above 50,000. But Monaco, it's like this massive 250 GDP per capita, thousands. It's huge, Monaco. I heard everybody wants to go to the Gulf, the Persian Gulf, to Dubai. Monaco is still the place to be. I mean, everybody goes to Monaco. Qatar, it's between the United States and Iceland. After Monaco, Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, Bermuda, Ireland, Switzerland, Cayman Islands, Qatar, which is part of the Gulf, the Persian Gulf. It's after the United States. And guess who's not on the list? Mexico is not on the list. So, yeah. I'm not going to say nothing about that. I got nothing to say.
Domestic economy, with one of the highest GDP per capita in the world, the second highest median wealth in the world, and a well-developed service-based economy, including world-beating education, technology and financial sectors. This duality has allowed Australia to weather almost every financial storm. Its strong domestic economy, for instance, helped it weather the Asian financial crisis in the late 90s, which crippled its largest trading partner, Japan, and a commodity boom driven by Chinese demand allowed Australia to sail through 2008.
So if you see the video, what I'm looking at, I think I can say the word that I want to say, that you all guys know what I want to say. It's a P word. It's a friend's reference. And look at the map. I mean, look at the map. Look at the map. Look what they're doing in the map. Look at the map. Look at the map. Japan had their big bust in the late 80s, early 90s. But guess who was booming in those years? China. China was booming. China. So they told Japan, you're not buying any more natural resources. We don't mind. We're just gonna pivot. Pivot. You guys know. I say a lot that word. I use it a lot. Pivot. So they pivot from the international in the international market, instead of selling all of those raw materials to the Japanese, they pivot. They pivot to China, and that's it's good for Australia because it's rich on those commodities. They can trade it with somebody that is booming within their market. If you ask me, right now, the U.S., let's say, not to say the United States, but the North America economy, it's trying to also pivot from getting a lot of products from China, they would love to divest to any other competitor within that region.
Australia did slip into its first recession in 30 years after the pandemic, but there was hope that this duality would save it again. After all, while Australia did see a spike in inflation post-pandemic, this inflation was fundamentally driven by an increase in energy prices, which was great news for Australian energy producers and provided the Australian state with
Petrol.
a massive budget windfall. Since 2022, the Australian Treasury has revised its revenue forecast upward by over 350 billion Australian dollars, largely thanks to higher oil and gas revenues. Anyway, there was some hope that
Petrol it's putting money in everybody's pocket. Well, I understand why everybody's drilling. If the Texans are drilling, they're going drill, baby, drill. The Australians are also going drill, baby, drill. The Persian Gulf countries, of course. Everybody's getting that dino juice out of the ground, or that dino gas out of the ground. The petrol is in everything that you see, sadly.
this surplus could be used to stimulate the economy back to growth, but this hasn't really happened. While aggregate GDP has been growing steadily since late 2020, save for the third quarter of 2021, this is mainly a consequence of large amounts of immigration, and GDP per capita actually fell for 6 consecutive quarters between Q2 of 2023 and Q3 of 2024. While GDP per capita did apparently grow by 0.1% in the last quarter of 2024, according to the latest data, this was largely driven by a rise in exports as a consequence of what's known as front-loading, i.e. American companies importing as much stuff from Australia as they could before Trump's tariffs came into force.
So, a lot of people from around the world and the Asian region are moving to Australia because it looks really, really far from a hot region that it's in the northwest of Asia. So there's a lot of conflict going on in there. So the logic is, let's move to Australia. Australia is relaxing his immigrant laws, I think, or they never had really strong immigrant laws. Those immigrants are boosting demand within Australia, and also the American economy, the North American bloc. It's boosting exports from Australia because of the looming tariffs that the North American, the United States, it's imposing on imported goods and services. So that's your boom.
On top of this, quite a lot of this has been driven by a marked increase in government spending, which has risen from 21% of GDP in 2015 to a high of 28% last year.
And also government spending. I don't know, I think it was Keynes, that's an economist. Is it Maynard Keynes? And there's another one, I don't remember which one, but they said, yeah, in the short run, it's better if you spend in the short run and you report that you're booming because the government is spending, and in the long run, well, everybody's going to be dead in the long run. I mean, whoever gets to pay for that, it's not going to be us, it's the people that are behind us. They have to worry about that, not us. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just explaining what is going on within that government spending, that it's almost a fifth of the economy. I'm not saying small government, big government is good or bad. I'm just describing what it is, okay? Personally, I think it depends. It depends on the resources that you have and the people that you have and your culture. For example, the U.S. is a very rule-driven culture. And if within their laws or rules, the people within the country think that government should be small, then government spending should also be small. But the opposite would be, for me, in my case, talking about Latin American countries, it would be, for example, Argentina, in which the Argentinian people think, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them, or some of them, they think that the government should be present and should be large and should provide not only for security, not only for military, not only for let's say medical services, but they should provide everything. They should procure everything. Government should be in everything. So these two different philosophies for government reach and government aspects and outlook. Some people like their government like really, really small and let everything else to the free market, and some other people are like, no, don't do that to government. You should be in every aspect of society, policing that nobody is taking advantage of or accumulating resources, or scamming and scheming. And personally, I think, for example, Mexico, it's a mixed economy and it's a mixed outlook. Yeah, we have rules, and we also look at intent, and if it's malicious or not malicious, then that's how we judge it. Not because I'm gonna put a bad example. Sometimes in the US you cannot use certain words because they're not politically correct to use them. But in Mexico you can use the word, and we don't mind you using a bad word if your intent is not to be if your intent is not to diminish other people or to be aggressive. You could say, I love you, then I don't want to swear, but you can use like a big nose. Big nose, oh, it's my mate, Big Nose. I love Big Nose. Big Nose is, he helped me with my homework. He helped me with my car, fixing my car. Big Nose is my mate. And everybody would say, dude, why do you call him Big Nose? We all know he has a big nose, but we're not making fun of his big nose. And a Mexican would say, my intent is not to make fun of my mate Big Nose. I'm just told you, he's great. He helped me with this, he helped me with that, and he has a big nose. Good for him. So intent. If you can say güerita as a good thing or as a bad thing, the tone and the context gives you the meaning of the word, not the word. Güerita or güerito could be good and bad. It depends. Güerito gave me some tacos. I love him. Tacos are good. But güerito took my money and stole from me. Yeah, güerito is bad. I don't like güerito. Get rid of güerito. Güerito scammed me. He took my money. Güerito, nah. It depends on the context with Mexico. I think I went on a tangent. So I'm gonna use the magic word, pivot, and we're gonna pivot back to the video.
This increase in government spending, the country would have fallen into recession last year. The government has even burnt through its windfall and now expects to run budget deficits for the foreseeable future. While there's no chance of an acute debt crisis, after all, Australia's debt to GDP ratio stands at just 50%. Earlier this year, one of the big credit rating agencies, Standard & Poor's, said it was considering downgrading Australia's AAA credit rating, citing a lack of fiscal responsibility and unsustainable tax and spend promises made by both parties during the election campaign. So, what's gone wrong for the Australian economy? Well, as we see it, there are broadly three reasons: productivity, housing, and China. Let's start with productivity, which basically measures economic output per hour of work. In many ways, productivity is the most important metric in economies, because if your GDP is growing but your productivity isn't, then that just means that you've either got more people or you're working more hours. And, well, Australia's productivity has actually been falling since 2021, and is now back to where it was in 2016. This is the worst performance of any major developed economy, and implies that Australians now have to work more hours just to maintain their standard of living.
So, like the US is like really up. After 2021, it's like 112. And then Australia, which is in blue, it's below 100. The Eurozone is above 100. And Netherlands also above 100. And the United Kingdom, it's like there's a huge difference. The US is really high up, and the other countries, the lowest one being Australia. So yeah, I think having to work more hours to get your same standard of living, it's hard. It also means that Australian goods and services are getting expensive, and they're gonna talk about housing, and housing is one of your big expenditures when you grow up. I think housing is gonna be one of the key factors, and also China not spending as much money as they used to.
This is in part because of low-skilled immigration, which has brought average productivity down. But it's more fundamentally a consequence of Australia's low investment rate. In a sense, Australia has
low investment
its proverbial laurels since the 2000s, when investment collapsed and hasn't recovered since. This created a short-term boom, as money that should have been invested was instead directed for consumption, but ultimately brought down productivity. The second reason is housing. As you might already know, Australia has one of the worst housing crises in the world. The ratio between the median house price and the median income has risen from about 3 in the 1990s to 10 today, one of the highest in the world, and rising to over 10 in Sydney, Melbourne, and Adelaide.
Yeah.
Not only does this exacerbate Australia's productivity crisis by prohibiting people from moving to high productivity areas, it also squeezes living standards. This becomes glaringly apparent when you look at household disposable income, which basically measures household income after taxes and...
Yeah, that's why. Okay, so China is building a lot of cities because people are way more productive when you put them in cities than when they are in pueblos or towns. Shout out to Magdalena, I think. Magdalena? Yeah, she's from a small town. Go visit her channel. I don't think it's in YouTube. I think it's in TikTok. Magdalena? I don't remember her name, but she also lives in a small pueblo. So she likes to look at frogs. Yeah. When you live in a town, there's no cities have more businesses per square inch than towns, and cities having more people per square inch have more trading within the city for products and services. And so if you're not having if housing it's not being, if you don't invest in making more housing in the cities, people within the cities are not going to have a place to live, or they're going to have to lower their standard of living and move with like 10 people in one apartment. You can tell that to the people in New York, and they are going to tell you, or in Shanghai, or in Beijing, there's like 10 people living in the same room, and they are all paying overrated price for just having a small space to live. So it's an unbalance between the countryside and the city side. That's why we were supposed to have this big buffer, which are the intercity lands, also known as urban sprawl, urbanization. It's not, what's the name? I don't remember the name. Suburbia. Yeah, the suburbs. The suburbs are supposed to be this ring around the city, and then the city, you just visit the city to go work and back to your place. Suburbia is dead. Nobody's putting money into suburbia. Everybody wants to be either within the city or in the countryside. And we don't have the means of transport, certainly not in Mexico, not where I live. We don't have public transport, and we also do not have a too big to fail local industry that creates cars for everybody. And also in our cities, we don't have space to put everyone's car. So suburbia is dead. The suburban family is dead. Will it be back? I don't know. Yeah, catch me up on that one in like 10, 20 years. Maybe we get back to suburbia.
Housing costs. As interest rates have risen, pushing up mortgage costs, disposable income have collapsed back down to 2018 levels, making Australia by far and away the worst performing member of the OECD on this metric over the past decade.
Sheesh.
Inordinate housing costs and massive mortgages have also left Australian households far more indebted than their international counterparts, which might explain why household consumption has tailed off in recent years. And the final reason is China. Much of Australia's recent growth has been driven by China's incessant demand for raw materials over the past couple of years, especially iron and coal. However, as the Chinese economy slows and moves away from primary industries like construction to more advanced industries like semiconductors, its demand for Australian commodity exports will wane, or at least flatline, thus undermining a key source of Australia's recent growth. And ultimately, it's this combination of weak export growth, stagnant productivity, and a political class that's been able to rely on occasional revenue windfalls to avoid much-needed structural reforms that present a challenge to Australia's long-term growth prospects. This is a complex and nuanced story, though, and as such, there's plenty more to read about this online,
so
with 51 sources reporting on just the most...
I'm gonna leave that to there. Yeah, Australia. Let me tell you something, guys. I love Australia. I would love to visit Australia. It's like the biggest and coolest country in Asia. Cooler than China and cooler than Japan. And I think it's pretty cool that they have immigration policy that is letting them have a boom. And I think they should invest. If China is not buying resources to create these cities and suburbs, I think Australia should have an internal policy that allows investments in local development for cities and suburbs, and so they can grow. They don't have a lot of cities. They have like Sydney and Perth, to my knowledge. So if China is not consuming those raw materials to create these poles of productivity within city centers, they should invest in themselves and create this stimulus to create this new housing outside of cities, which are suburbs, developments, and also invest in transportation that's gonna create and also market themselves as a safe place to live, as a safe place to internationally to go get educated, so they can attract more business, and they head back to a booming economy. That's my idea. Write down your ideas in the comment section. And again, this is the end of this video, so I'm gonna say it. I live in a very small town. I live in a very small pueblo, and there's nothing, literally nothing to do in here. I hope you're having a great one.